Hi, I'm Brad Hollowell. I am one of the hosts of the Black Guy, White Guy show, and this is going to be just a short rant basically about the Sanford, Florida police involved in the Trayvon Martin case. You know, a lot of coverage of the Trayvon Martin case has talked about whether this case was motivated by race. And I would argue that while it may have been or it may not have been, we're not in the head of George Zimmerman. One of the things that's really bothered me that doesn't seem to get any sort of true coverage, or no one's gotten deeper with it, is the fact that the Sanford police sent a man who had shot Trayvon Martin home with his gun the very night that he shot him. Now, there's all kinds of things that are wrong with that. Even if you believed at the time as an officer that Trayvon Martin was attacking George Zimmerman and that George Zimmerman acted in self-defense, fine, great, but how do you hand him his gun and send him home? The gun is the biggest piece of evidence. It's the thing that proves that George Zimmerman shot him, so that you need to have it so that you can get evidence from it, so that if some new piece of information comes forward later, I mean, what if, and this, I'm not saying this happened, but what if someone came forward a week from now, 2 weeks from now, and said, hey, I saw those two arguing a week ago, a week before the shooting. Then it would change the whole scope of the investigation, and because you've given the murder weapon or the killing weapon back to the owner, where he can destroy it, where he can take all of the bullets that he's had in that bunch and get rid of them so you can't connect him up with that charge, he's going to go and he's going to sit in court, and he's very likely, if he follows his lawyer's instructions, and he is not going to testify. That's what they usually tell people who are defendants to do. And so here we have a situation where the police basically destroyed the sure thing piece of evidence that would have helped this case as it goes forward, now that it's going to be going into court. The Sanford police has acted in a way and basically translated the stand your ground law in a way where there is no need for court. George Zimmerman can go into court and argue stand your ground. The police still should have looked at this whole situation as a crime, and it seems very much like they didn't want to arrest a man and put him in jail for the murder of a young black teenager who was walking around in a gated community with a hoodie on. And so it bothers me greatly that the press hasn't really pushed harder that someone investigate the Sanford police, that someone look at what they did and at least put it out there in the press and say, hey, these guys didn't act responsibly as police officers, and now there's a good chance that George Zimmerman is going to go free, even though he may have allegedly be found with a great deal of the evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that he shot that boy when he didn't need to. And I won't go into the details of that case, but the fact that still remains is that the night of the shooting, the Sanford police acted irresponsibly, and no one's really picking up on that. No one's getting the experts, former police officers, on to make comment about how irresponsible this police force has acted. Even the special prosecutor in the case here as of late has complimented the police force on how they did their job. And I know she's got to work with the people as she goes forward to try to prosecute George Zimmerman, but it just adds fuel to the fire in the context of me being angry, because in my opinion, the real problem here, the real injustice, basically the bottom line is this: there are crazy people out there who shoot other people. There are racist people out there who shoot other people. There are people who go around being vigilantes who shoot other people. We're not going to be able to stop those kinds of things from happening ever. But we can take an institution that should have acted responsibly for this young man on his behalf after his death. And we can hold them responsible and say, change your policies, do the right kind of training so that police officers do what they need to do. Just because the prosecutor, when they contacted him, said, let the man go, that has nothing to do with that man carrying his gun home that very night. And so I have a serious issue with them giving their biggest piece of evidence that they had at the time and handing it back to the shooter and saying, okay, you can go home now. Here, take the biggest evidence we have. It's just ridiculous, and I just can't believe that that's what's going on. That's the true discrimination that's going on here. That's the true injustice that we all have to worry about as citizens that's going on here. This is about, Trayvon Martin's death is tragic, and I know it is about him in the context of the murder, but in the context of how we go forward and how we act, how we expect our government officials to act, the Sanford police acted so very irresponsibly. Now, I believe the prosecutor, the original prosecutor, acted irresponsibly as well, but when you have a dead person who's been shot on your hands and you take the murder weapon, the gun you know shot that boy, and you hand it back to the shooter and say, go on home, you have acted more irresponsibly than I think is explainable in this day and age. So, again, I'm Brad Hollowell, one half of the Black Guy, White Guy show, and this has been a Trayvon Martin case rant. We'd like you to listen to the show. You can find our show at www.blackguywhiteguy.com. You can like our Facebook page. Just look up the Black Guy, White Guy show. You can follow us on Twitter at BGuyWGuy. You can subscribe to our podcast on iTunes. And you can contact me at bradtheblackguy@gmail.com. And you can contact Anthony Walsh, the other half of the Black Guy, White Guy show, at anthonythewhiteguy@gmail.com. Thanks a lot.